Good evening.
Recording in progress.
Good evening and welcome to the November 5th, 2025 Yarmouth Planning Board meeting. I am Joanne Crowley, Chair. The public is welcome to attend this in person this evening or via alternate public access provided on the notice of meeting available on the Town of Yarmouth website. I'd like to begin by taking roll call. Susan Britta.
Here.
Deirdre Gaquin.
Here.
Tom Pendleton.
Here.
Will Rubenstein.
Here.
Peter Slovak. Ken Smith.
Here.
Joanne Crowley, present. Seeing that we have a quorum, I will now call the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Although not a formal part of our agenda, we are so pleased to welcome Tom Pendleton to the Planning Board this evening. This is his first meeting, and he rounds out a team of 7 that we're very happy to have him here with us. Tom, thank you so much for joining up.
Thank you, Jim.
You have no idea what you're getting yourself into, but we're a really good group, so I think you'll enjoy yourself. And we have the best town planner in the world, so
We do.
we are all well taken care of. Just a couple of words from you,
Sure.
maybe on your background a little bit.
Yeah, so,
Please.
again, my name is Tom Pendleton. I live over on Long Pond Drive. We've lived there probably 10 years, 11 years now, but we were married in South Yarmouth. My wife and I were former Peace Corps volunteers, and I'm a retired federal contracting officer for the U.S. Department of Labor, primarily in job training and job training programs for at-risk youth. So that's my background.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much. On the agenda this evening, the first item is, Kathy, we have the Chapter 40B comprehensive permit application. That's still moving around. For 897 Route 28. Our town planner, Kathy Williams, has included in our packets supplemental information provided by the applicant for this Chapter 40B housing project proposed at the site of the former laundromat on Route 28 with the intersection of Pine Grove. We most recently discussed this at our September 17th meeting and provided written comments to the Zoning Board of Appeals for consideration at their October 23rd meeting, at which the comprehensive permit was discussed. So Kathy, why don't you walk us through what you've received since then and any conversations you've had with Mr. Cleary?
Yeah, I think there's no defined specific project that is being proposed. It sounds as though they're heard a bunch of different things. They met with Affordable Housing Trust. They obviously had their initial hearing with the Zoning Board of Appeals and heard a lot from them with regard to what the architecture looked like, the parking, and those similar concerns that I believe that the Planning Board had in their memo, as well as the Community Housing Committee. So what they ended up doing in this particular plan here is that you may remember originally the access came off of Pine Grove. Now they're showing it coming off of Route 28. My understanding is the idea, the Affordable Housing Trust is really pushing for some type of mixed use, so that the first floor of this building would be maybe offices for their particular organization, and then they would have the housing on top. So the buildings would be, this scenario shows the continuation of the 3 buildings of 3 stories. It would be slightly less number of units. Instead of 27, it would go down to 25 if the 2 units on the first floor turned out to be offices or commercial in some fashion. What they ended up doing here is they were able to provide, by going this particular way, they were able to provide 39 parking spaces. I believe before they only had 30, and it was 1.1 per unit. This is kind of showing additional parking being provided. The setback here from Route 28 is actually pretty high. It's like 31.6. So there is the possibility of moving that up and maybe moving these buildings further up or maybe joining these buildings. One of the concerns I had is this ends up being a dead end to the dumpster. That's not feasible. You're not going to back out your garbage truck and go that way. So they're going to need to scrunch this up further in order to be able to come around here with some type maybe it's just an exit-only lane for people to go, and then they can come and get their garbage and go out this way. Fire department probably would also be interested in something along those lines. The concern I kind of have is this is a very narrow lot, and it's kind of impacting their layout quite a bit, because I think they only have like 4 feet of buffer on that particular, on the west side, and then you have your standard 60-foot wide double loaded, and then by the time you take in this 54-foot wide structure, you end up with only having like 11-foot buffer off of Pine Grove, which is for a 3-story building, it's kind of heavy in that particular residential area. So that's of concern. So one of the things I talked about is maybe having them consider, maybe this is an idea of angled parking. That's something we do allow in the VCOD. You could only go so narrow because the fire department's going to want a lane of a certain width. That may be an issue with them. So those are things that would need to be figured out. Lots of times the fire department likes to have, at least a 20-foot wide, but if they have a hydrant in here, they probably would be okay. So there's some discussions along those lines. But by narrowing this up, you might be able to get like a 20-foot buffer off of Pine Grove, which I think would be better. And again, you could, if you move these things up forward, you could still come around here, maybe with some angle parking, and still have like maybe a little area for playground. So there's some opportunities here to make it a little bit better, but unfortunately, once you go angle parking, you're going to lose spaces, so it's going to be more like, I did a quick look at it, maybe like 33 spaces instead of the 39
Kathy, what's the
spaces.
requirement? What was the requirement? I know it depended on the project itself.
If
but
they're
what-
doing VCOD, the minimum's 1,
Right.
maximum 1.5.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that we've talked about making some modifications to that, making the minimum 1.5 or something more than 1, and then this is workforce housing. I know they're going to do some comparisons later with some of the other housing projects that are all 100% affordable. That's very different than this, where you would have probably the 25% affordable and the rest would be market rate. You are on Route 28. There are a lot of studios. There may be some people who only, don't have a car or obviously have one car. So that's something to think about. So those are some of the things, just looking at this, that I noticed. And then the second scenario that they had,
Kathy, before we go to the second one, how much of that have you discussed with Mr. Cleary?
other than, this was something that where he came and dropped it off at the Zoning Board of Appeals, and then he came up and handed me a copy. And we had like maybe a 30 to 40-minute conversation about a bunch of different things. But I did mention, the concerns about this. I don't know if I had mentioned the angle parking at that time.
Yeah, okay. But you have made some suggestions to him on how it might,
Not to that level.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be a case, quite frankly, of it. The town planner told me to do
meaning
this.
Kathy Williams said.
I'm more than,
Yeah, no, that's why I'm asking.
I'm more than comfortable with developers doing a little hand sketch. I certainly did it for Yarmouth Commons, but I'm a little uncomfortable doing this. But I think suggestions like, you might want to look at angled parking. You could probably loop it around and have an exit only. You might, if you scrunch things closer and maybe combine 2 of the buildings, you might be able to put a playground in. Those are generic statements that their designers should certainly be able to take.
But my point is, I'm trying to protect you a little bit.
Thank you.
It's, and be on the record that this was a generic conversation with him. And there's no attribution to.
No.
Kathy Williams said.
No.
Do this, yeah.
And I know we had this conversation, and you did mention that, so
Yeah, no,
I
I
just wanted to be
appreciate
on the record about that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I have one question, Kathy. Was it a conscious decision just to have the entrance and exit on 28 and no entrance and exit on Pine Grove? Was there a reason for
Yeah,
that?
I think once they decided that they were interested in, and we kind of talked a little bit about this during our mixed-use studies, is if you're having some type of commercial here, people anticipate and expect a Route 28
Entrance.
entrance, versus if you have something there and then people are like, wait a minute, where do I go? I have to turn here? Is this the right place to go? It's a little bit more confusing.
I get concerned about 28, trying to come out here and turning against traffic, especially during the summer, is really tough. I mean,
It's not going to be any different than if you went into Pine Grove and came out here,
okay.
because you're still
There's
going to
no
have.
light.
Right.
Right.
What the suggestion here is they originally were coming and doing some weird angle like this. I think it's shown on the, because this is where the existing curb cut is now.
Correct.
I'm like, why not just straighten it out and you'd be further from this intersection, which Mass DOT would prefer than being closer.
No curb cut off a 28 car lane.
So this is the one building concept, but I don't think it's just one building, and this is where I got more information in the conversation, but it's not represented in the materials that were submitted. So I'll tell you what I understand from my conversation with Paul, and also some of the things he said at the Affordable Housing Trust. This is really just combining two buildings, you know, so that wouldn't be providing everything he wanted. But he had talked about maybe having a frontage building with some type of arch where you could drive in underneath it and then have parking on the side and above. And I think that would be what would get him to his density that he references later in his documents. Again, same scenario. You have the dumpster over here. There's no way you're going to be able to deal with that. The angles there are just way off, and then getting out again. But again, this is a case where, you know, if you straightened it out and you had one building here, this kind of shows you how combining the two buildings together might give you some space here to come out, and then also maybe some area for some type of playground area, which I know was something that the Community Housing Committee was concerned about, because there are three-bedroom units in this development. So this is a little weird because this isn't the real plan, I don't think. There's something else going on in the front that's not represented. He had also talked about maybe taking this building here and moving it to the center and having you come in and maybe having some parking underneath. So, interesting idea. It would get more parking hidden. It would provide more buffers to multiple areas. You probably would come out the other end and there might be some additional parking in the rear and that type of thing. So I don't know if that's real. It was just a conversation. It's not represented here in any particular way. I don't know how you comment on it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be commenting on kind of
Speculation.
speculation, and
Yeah,
then
no.
he doesn't mention it at the ZBA, and they're like, what's the planning board talking about?
Right.
You know, so it gets a little confusing. But they also submitted a different elevation. I think this would be more for the combined or a larger building. Still 3-story. They had shown this way back when they were doing their initial eligibility letter to the state. I like the fact that there's a little bit more elements to it. I like the pitched roof, but I really kind of, I'm not a huge fan. But, you know, is it something we could work with? Probably. And that's the thing that, you know, Paul was saying is, you know, once we get some of the layouts, he goes, we can work on the envelope. We can work on what the buildings look like after that. So that was a comforting comment, because I think the aesthetics of the smaller three-story buildings was not necessarily appropriate for Cape Cod. I'm not sure how far you can go, but I think even just like this little bit of a roof goes a long way. And maybe, again, if they overhang it a little bit more, some brackets, make it look a little bit more bungalowy, you might have something there that you might be able to work with.
Madam Chair?
Mr.
Just a
Rubenstein.
just a process question. So their hearing is on the 13th.
Correct.
So then when do they have to have something way more,
This is what they
Concrete.
submitted in preparation for that meeting.
so
November 13th.
given that I watched the first hearing at the zoning board, can't speak for them, but I would be surprised if they would be able to approve something.
Oh, I don't think they're going to approve anything. I think the impression I got was they've heard a lot of things from
This
a
is
lot
more
of
of a,
different people.
we're reporting back on
We're
what we've done
reporting
in the
back on
past
some
month.
ideas that we had, you know, where do you think we should be heading?
Here's a conceptual take
Yes.
on it, and then have more discussion as they did for almost an hour maybe 45 minutes.
I'm
a month
assuming
ago.
that's where this conversation would come in. Would you prefer us to have the building in the center and then
I see.
have parking underneath? Because I think I don't want to spend a lot of time on something that the ZBA is like, no, we really didn't want that. We really wanted something different.
So what I guess what I'm getting at is, next Thursday's meeting is not a meeting to approve anything. Next Thursday's meeting is a meeting to discuss more concepts, and then to be asked to go away and then come back again.
That would be my interpretation, yes.
Okay, I'm just sort of checking in on it from our perspective, because to comment, as you said earlier, in my opinion, to comment on something that isn't quite fleshed out, I'll use that term, Madam Chair, I don't believe makes a ton of sense, although I do believe we could maybe write a shorter memo to reemphasize some of our general concerns, as we did a month ago. However, it may be better to keep the powder dry for another 30 days until they have the next packet, which presumably will be more definitive. That's just that's why I wanted to check in on the timing, to sort of maybe open up a discussion, Madam Chair, about what we should do, which is, I assume, something you would like to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Whether it's
Right,
tonight
I
that we
wasn't
do
sure.
something, or.
Yeah, or both.
Yeah.
Or both. I just wanted to check in on is this what the ZBA is going to be talking about? And if
It
that's the
is.
case, then there's certainly, this is only round 2 of many.
I think even if you write a comment letter with generically, kind of was just reiterating, we understand, it doesn't seem like there's a fully fleshed out, there's multiple options. We're just want you to know, we're still keeping an eye on it, but we don't really see anything that we can sink our teeth into with regard to comments. I don't want them to think that you've just gone away, that you're fine with
Of course,
either.
of course. I just wanted to try to see if there was a middle ground. It sounds like you've identified one. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ms. Ruda?
Joanne, do we have to comment before, for the November 13th meeting, or could we wait till after the zoning board has the hearing and then comment on the totality of what we heard? Do we have to write?
I'll defer to Kathy.
Yeah, I mean, you could just send something to say, we've received this, but it seems like there's multiple options here. We would like to defer our comments until after we hear what they
That
have.
might be one way to go.
And Madam Chair, I'd just like to throw in my quick 2 cents on that, is that, some of the comments I've heard is some of the stuff I was thinking, like, for example, the very simple one, an exit onto Pine Grove. Because I think, number one, the fire department's gonna want that, and 2, there's no way you're gonna get a fire truck backing out onto Route 28 if this thing's full. Which
we talked about a year ago.
Exactly right. So I guess, my comment is, I do agree, wait to see what's coming out of ZBA, but I think what might help them is at least some of our generic comments, just looking at it tonight.
I mean, I can't imagine how serious, common sense would tell you you couldn't back a truck or a fire truck, and so that to me is like not a serious attempt. That is just common sense. Why would they send that knowing that that's like dead on arrival?
Yeah, the fire department would say there's not enough turnaround, and nix it. And even if there were a hydrant, they still need to be able to,
Turn around.
have appropriate access.
I mean, Madam
Either
Chair,
plan.
forget about a fire truck, what about a moving truck? People are gonna be moving in and out of this
Oh, that's a
place.
good point.
How are you getting them out of there?
You're not going to back out onto 28, that's for sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
they're
that's
really-
a good comment, you need some type of egress in order to not have people backing.
And
And
on
the
the,
10 feet, the 10 feet, sorry, go ahead.
I-
Go
I
ahead.
think-
No, Ken,
The access to Pine Grove,
the 10 feet is,
they definitely need two points of, entry and egress.
and I, as commented, I do have a concern that you're gonna have families living here and there's not square one a space for kids to have a little bit of fun,
Which we've-
also the 10
which we
feet, Madam
commented
Chair.
on before.
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
And the 10 feet here is, that's going to be really tough. And the neighbors from Pine Grove didn't have an opportunity to say anything at the ZBA meeting because it just never got to that part of the discussion. And I assume it may not even get there next
week.
Thursday. But I would assume the ZBA will take very seriously the concerns of a neighborhood if a plan is eventually submitted, let's say in December, that has a setback of only 10 feet. I'd be really surprised if they weren't going to take that incredibly seriously. So those could be some of the ways that we could be a little proactive without being definitive as this process continues. Madam Chair,
That's a good
thank
idea.
you.
Yep. Thank you, Bill. Susan, did you have something
I
else?
was just going to say, when they appeared in front of us almost 2 years ago at this point, it was mixed use and it looked relatively decent and we were generally supportive of it. And then they came back and said it didn't, they couldn't quote financially make it work. And I have always wondered what that meant. What are they expecting out of that project? Because I think that is driving the density and the overbuilding on this site, is that they expect to make a certain amount of money on this site. And I don't know, I don't know what it is. I don't know what they expect to do. I don't know what and of course, I don't, if they ever come back, I would, of course, ask them, what is your investment plan? What do you expect to make? Because I do think that's driving this density issue, which in some cases, in all the other problems, are insurmountable. I mean, you cannot get the amount, based on what we would have as a normal parking requirement, you're not going to get the amount of parking spaces they need with a design like this. So there has to be some modification. And this doesn't seem like a great idea as a modification, to have like one row in. So I just don't know whether it gets to the point where the zoning board basically says, you're not going to get there with this kind of density. You need to rethink your investment plan or do something else, because you can't get there from here. If you want to make X amount of money, you're not going to make it off this site, because it's just the density you're going to require, it's just not going to work. And all the things that go with that density are just not going to work. The setbacks, the parking, and all the other, they asked for, I think, 9 serious variances. The trees, although they kind of poo-pooed the trees, which I thought was annoying, but and at some point, someone, and I think that's going to be zoning's job at some point, to say to them, you're not going to get there. This is just not going to work. And I don't know how long and the role that we play in all of that. And we obviously would be supportive of whatever, the zoning issues, we can be supportive of what, they've already commented on. But you're right, I don't think I don't think the planning board needs to be or should get in a position where anything we say is, oh, well, the planning said, 3 stories, or the planning said, put a fence in, or the planning board said, because words have consequences. And this is just a bad plan. And it's not any better now than it was the one they presented, what was it, a month ago or 5 weeks ago? It's just not any better. And this stuff may look a little bit better. The design may look a little bit better, but the guts of the plan is still not a good plan.
Madam Chair, can I ask a question? In terms of if we did write a memo in the next couple of days to get to the ZBA, I think one of the things we could just repeat is that the site itself is 1.07 acres or 8, somewhere in there.
9.
It's a tiny, I don't know how else to say it. It's really small. And that fundamentally has been our issue from the jump. And I do agree with you that when we met with them in the fall of 2023, it at least appeared that particular site could absorb the initial design, which, again, notwithstanding anyone's private business and their ability to, put a spreadsheet together that shows a plus or a black number at the bottom and not a red number, there just seem to be some fundamental issues that, I think we can still express our deep concern about. Not to mention, again, as Susan and others have brought up, some more of the operational sides of the site, but also the lack of, I think we could speak as the planning board, in terms of the mixed use element that seems to be very, I'll just use the word vague at this point. It was pretty clear in the first iteration. It is now gone, it has sort of magically, disappeared, which I guess is their
What am I
right.
remembering, it was almost a separate building?
I thought it was above the top of the shop, wasn't it?
No, it was a separate, it was a separate
It was
building.
in front and
You're giving
behind?
the previous design a lot more credit.
Well, Kathy, this is why your brain works better than ours.
My understanding is that they were originally, also they were trying to originally, I think, keep the laundromat building, which was kind of crazy. But I think it was going to be an oyster bar or something,
Yeah.
because I think
Yeah.
Steve Cleary had done that elsewhere. But when we started talking about, well, you're not going to have enough parking for an oyster bar and
Residence,
residential,
right,
and that's when it kind of, they never, I don't think, really wanted to do the residential. Actually, obviously, Chapter 40B is more residential. They're happy to have 100% residential and not have mixed use. I think maybe them having their offices here on the first floor of the front building is not a bad idea. They can keep eyes on things, maybe. And this is, again, anecdotally that I heard from somebody else, not from Paul, that might be a possibility. So there's a lot of different things that are kind of going out there, and the general idea I get is that they want to go and make some arguments and some presentations to the ZBA, and we'll talk about the next slides are here, about why that they're not really all that dense. It's really not all that much when you compare it to some other things that they then show.
Yeah, but that's
Except
never a good decision.
And those sites are literally double the size, if I looked at the math right.
Correct.
Those are over 2 acres, those other sites, whereas this is literally a 1.07 or roughly acre site. It is tiny.
There are a lot of residences that
Not to mention, exactly, then let's add in the abutters and the proximity therein.
Trying to put 55 to 60 people plus 30-plus cars into a 1.07 acre lot, you're going to have cars parking up and down Pine Grove or into the back of the neighborhood, which is,
Not great.
if I was a neighbor, I'd say, no thanks.
I don't know if you saw the previous ZBA hearing. It is worth a watch because I think it was an interesting adventure for someone who was coming in front of the ZBA who was trying to basically dance without getting an outright vote, which I don't think was gonna go in his favor, and sort of buy himself some time. But the turnout, just so you know, the turnout was high in terms of the abutters, so, and that will continue.
Yeah.
But it feels like we're just gonna be doing more dancing next Thursday, and hopefully we'll be able to support, the continued concerns and I won't say objections, concerns that we've had for a while.
I think one of the things that did come out of the Affordable Housing Trust was they were emphasizing the Village Center overlay district zoning. And so I think Paul actually looked at that much more closely. You may not realize there's a lot of cookies that come with the VCOD and a lot of things that could potentially be allowed here, including up to 4 stories, 48 feet if you're 50 feet from the property line. So there is, a piece of land, thing in the center here where you could potentially be 4 stories. Granted, it's at least 50 feet back from, and you have to meet all the other design standards, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not
They
à la
can't-
carte.
they could never
The
meet
zoning's
that.
not à la
Right.
carte. But there are a lot of things that are allowed in the Village Center Overlay District that something significant could happen on this site with our current zoning, I guess is what I'm trying to say, by right with our current zoning, if done well and done right. So just something to think about. It is in the VCOD, and we were anticipating a higher level of development on this site than the underlying zoning.
But Kathy, wouldn't they still have problems with the parking? Even
Well,
with
they would park
VCOD?
under the building. They could park under the building.
parking
And,
under the building.
that's one of those things, we're talking about finances, that's not cheap.
No, it's
So they'd have
wicked
to really
expensive.
think about that.
Never do it.
But, they could go underground a little bit, and dig down a little and whatever.
I'm sure they won't hit any water or any
It's not
sand.
even hitting water, it's in the floodplain, Kathy, so,
No, it's not.
it's not in the velocity zone, but it's in the floodplain,
No, it's just outside.
really?
Either it's just I think it might be just outside the 500 or just pieces of it are in the 500. I looked at it too because I was surprised by how high they had set the first floor elevation. I
Yeah.
didn't know if that was related to that, but it's not.
Okay.
It's not it's not a bad idea per se, but.
Yeah, it's just, right, because I know on the library project, I think that entire strip was
Is a slosh
considered a
zone.
slush zone, which is, I think, was it every,
It's not.
That's not public building, so
Right.
it
No.
wouldn't come into effect, I don't think.
and it's slush every 100 years, a hurricane every 100 years or
They
something?
have to be a Category 4
Slush
hurricane.
zones is basically the storm surge from
Storm surge.
Yeah,
different
from-
levels of hurricanes.
And it'd have to be a
gets worse as you-
category, Category 4, and if we have a Category 4.
And
we
since
have more
1929 or
troubles
something, yeah. I remember that whole strip along 28 was designated as something wet.
We saw a big difference between the previous firm flood maps and when they changed them in 2014. So a lot of the Village Center Overlay District got put into a flood zone when it hadn't been before, when the zoning was originally developed. So not necessarily. Something to think about when we're zoning our little village nodes is, yes, it's nice to be near the river, but then you also have all these other issues to attend with.
Any other comments or questions? Deirdre, did you have anything?
Well, I wanted to point out that Mary approached me the other day, we've been discussing this at the Community Housing Committee as well, and she said that there had been some comments about her statement earlier that there is they need a lot of studio and one-bedroom apartments, that somebody said that wasn't necessarily true, and could I find any Census Bureau data to support that? So I spent some time digging stuff up, and the Census Bureau's site isn't working because of the shutdown, but I had stuff on my computer, and I found some other sites, and I threw this together for Mary, and I made copies for everybody because I thought it was interesting. It has to do with the size of units and everything, but also there's some.
Thank you.
I think that's what I need, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah.
I thought Mary looked at the people who were actually applying for the lottery, what they really needed, and a lot of those were people who were looking for studios.
That's what prompted this, that the lottery was 68% looking for studio and one-bedrooms. So she was wondering if there was any data to support that idea.
Oh, I see, perfect, okay.
So I just pulled up, this is not all relevant, but I just thought it was a lot of interesting stuff that everybody might want to have. And Mary said, I haven't talked to her since I sent it to her, but I hope it will help her.
37% of the households are one-person household, that's pretty high.
That's pretty high, yeah. And she was also,
Even two-person, you know, if you add those two together, that's.
76%.
yeah, it really, really does. And that's people that would be looking for studio and one bedrooms, so.
And Mary did make a very good point, you know, on Route 28, studios and one-bedrooms are probably better than anything related to family. She didn't, I think if we could avoid having the 3 bedrooms, she would like that to be
Yes.
the case, because families, that's not necessarily a great place for families. But it's a great place for someone who wants to work at Stop and Shop, or wants to catch the transit and go into Hyannis, or
Yeah.
a lot of different things that would be beneficial, so. So, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I think that number right there tells you all
Tells you a
you
lot,
need to know,
really.
yeah.
But basically, that, you know, this has been a major discussion at that committee, and everybody's pretty much saying the same thing that we're saying, that, you know, the parking, playground, the looks of the building and all those kind of things. And I'm just kind of intrigued by the fact that the ZBA, when I watched it the first time, they really kept saying, well, we want a real plan, and so we're going to come back now with something that's still not a real plan.
I would imagine there'd be some frustration when they have their hearing next Thursday,
Concerned that it,
and
I'm concerned about
may
that
not
as
go well.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, they don't
I could be wrong.
typically,
Right.
get their opinion asked like that.
That's why
They
I
judge
asked.
on a project.
That's why I asked if this was what was actually submitted,
Yes.
because they can't submit any more, I don't
The only
believe.
thing else that they submitted was our reports from BSC Group on mixed use and Union Studios on mixed use.
And still no letter.
No letter.
Still no letter.
No updated eligibility
letter from the
that
state?
I-
Still no letter.
Was not in the packet.
No.
no.
Do you know what we're talking about?
No, I'm sorry.
Well, when they first came to us in 2023, it was for 23 units. And then when they went to ZB, and it had an expiration date of approximately Halloween of 2025.
I did read that in the packet,
And
but
then-
I wasn't sure.
Cut to the ZBA hearing a month ago, but they came to ZBA asking for 27.
Right.
And the ZBA rightfully said, what's this?
Yeah.
And they made assurances verbally that everything was fine. And the ZBA basically said, if I recall, well, let's,
Go back and
show
get-
me.
yeah.
Go back to the
State and get another
State
permit.
Department of State Departments and get what you need. And as Madam Chair just said, they have not submitted that.
A new letter.
And yet they're still asking for however many units.
They need a
Sorry.
letter from the
In here.
Executive Office of Housing and Affordable
Yes, thank you,
Living.
Madam Chair. Yeah, this says 26. This one's still asking for
Affordable
26.
communities.
Right.
The three,
Not
I don't know.
what the,
That's
literally, the
They don't-
permission
they
was
don't
for
have the letter.
23.
Yeah.
Right, so,
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome.
So Kathy, do you have enough to try to craft?
Can I just maybe just tell some of the other
Oh,
information?
yeah,
that
sure.
they- yeah.
You had given us other information
One
as
of the
well.
other things that they were trying to do is, we do not have floor area ratio. That's trying to give you an idea of what percentage of the site should be the gross building area divided by the gross area of the particular lot. We don't have that in the town of Yarmouth. But he did go and look at all the different benchmarking projects in the BSC group and tried to determine, you know, what the floor area ratio is. This is a little skewed, especially like some things like some of the projects in Harwichport, I mean, the 40%. They had 27 parking spaces off-site. I don't know whether he took that into consideration or not, but Peter Slovak sent me an email asking about, well, what is it for Yarmouth Commons and what is it for Yarmouth Gardens?
Right.
So I just went on the assessors and looked at what they have on there, and Yarmouth Commons is 16 units per acre, and that was about 38.4%. Yarmouth Gardens, which is 20 units per acre, ended up being like 48.4% floor area ratio. So, looking at the, you know, Yarmouth Commons does have a nice open green space, which is nice for the kids and everything. Even Yarmouth Commons does have, where they were able to put in some playground area for the kids in the back of one of the units. It's really in the corner, way in the back, which is nice because it's isolated. And they were able to put something in there. And then he's showing what he has for his 897 as being 53.3%. Again, he's trying to show an argument that he's not that far off from a lot of the mixed-use projects that the planning board liked as part of their assessment. And I did say to him that this information was presented to the planning board. You guys haven't accepted, you haven't digested, you haven't said, oh, this is gung-ho, we're going to go with this. But it was a very good analysis, and it was good food for thought for something for the future, not necessarily any, you didn't buy in, say, stamp approved on it, is what I tried to say.
Yarmouth Gardens is literally twice the size. Right? Because it says on here, 1.07 versus 2.14.
Yes,
Literally twice the size.
yep.
How many units at?
It's
at-
40 at Yarmouth Gardens,
40,
and then
okay.
there's 69 at Yarmouth Commons. It's not quite 20 units per acre, it's something, a little less than that. And then the other thing, which I thought was kind of interesting argument that we tried to make with regard to the parking. He was taking a look at 497 is Yarmouth Gardens, and this isn't really fair with regard to parking because, again, it's 100% affordable. It's 60% of median area income, and then 10% is even 30%. So there's a lot of people there that may not have cars at all, or certainly not 2 cars per. So he was just kind of going to give you an idea of what the residential density is, and then also the bedroom density, which I thought was kind of interesting, looking at the percentage of bedrooms. And then his project isn't that dissimilar from the number of bedrooms at Yarmouth Gardens. And then he looked at the total number of parkings and then the parkings per bedroom. He analyzed that. And he was saying, well, Yarmouth Gardens is fine and has 0.83 parking spaces per unit. But again, that's extremely low income, whereas he's only going to have 25%, probably 80% area median income, and then the rest would be market rate. So it's not a one-to-one type of thing, but the idea of maybe having 1 parking space per bedroom was an interesting argument. I thought it was an interesting argument. So he made that, and then the other, even more confusing thing is he put in the Yarmouth Gardens, and he showed the little elevation there, and then kind of was saying to me, he's like, well, this is kind of like if we took half this, we could maybe do one of the buildings in Yarmouth Gardens. And if we did that, maybe we just hired these architects and build something similar. Yarmouth Commons, or Yarmouth Gardens is a 2-story building. So I think he was thinking, well, he could keep it 2 stories, but he'd need to stretch it out. I put this building on top of the site, and it takes up a lot more, you could only get this size building on there. So he would have to do a 3rd story to make it happen. But I thought that was interesting, a totally new idea. He would put aside the green stacks and hire and do something, that he knows that we liked, which was Yarmouth Gardens. So I appreciated that. But again, it's in here, but it doesn't say why it's in here, and I only know this because of the conversation that I had. So I had the same concerns that Will had, that ZBA is saying, it's not our job to tell you what to do.
Right.
It's your job to present a project to us, and we'll tell you what our concerns are, and then you have to take that and make your project. And to be quite honest with you, a lot of this process that they're looking for would have come out of a friendly 40B local initiative project, where they come and they meet with staff, they come and meet with me, we talk about it, we make suggestions, we make ideas. Like Yarmouth Commons was definitely done that way, Yarmouth Gardens was definitely done that way, and then we kind of work together to get something that we think is palatable and would be a good fit for our community. This going directly to the state and not going through the local initiative kind of bypassed all that interactive conversation. And even when we did ask them to come to site plan review, and they did come to site plan review, they didn't do anything with any of the comments that were provided. But now I think maybe they're thinking, let's work a little bit more together with people. So hopefully, there were some good things in here with regard to the conversation that I had. It sounded as though they might be more open. But again, it's where the rubber hits the road, and the exact proposal is what we really need to be concentrating on. And I don't want to keep commenting ad nausea on something. So I think the idea of maybe just simply stating there doesn't seem to be one single defined proposal, but these are some of the general comments that we would have, and we'd like to hear more from the ZBA, and then we might have more comments after that.
Madam Chair, could I just reiterate one thing? I think it's totally within our purview to, in a friendly way, remind our friends at the zoning board who know this, but I think it's good to see in writing, that this was presented to us as, this was presented as permission for 23 units 2 years ago. And now we're here at a second go-around or a third go-around, and they're still asking for more, and they have as yet provided anything in writing that says they have permission to do anything else, or anything more than 23. And I think it'd be important, not that the ZBA has forgotten, because clearly they won't, but I think it's important to show the unity between how both of our boards feel, that there seems to be some very fundamental, like, before we even discuss anything at all about any
Where's the
drawings,
where's the letter?
Where's the proof?
Where's the letter?
Where's the beef?
Why
As
are we
those of us who are old
wasting- why
enough to
wasting
remember.
time on this if they
Right,
ultimately
because-
We don't have a
gonna be-
letter.
Because I think the ZBA could be within their rights to say,
say-
do you have a letter? No, meeting adjourned.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
that's the kind of vibe I think we should be, you know, again, it's their meeting, and I know they run an excellent meeting, and they follow an excellent process. I just think it would be nice to show that we're pretty much aligned in this way, and maybe just so they know that we have not received anything.
Right.
Not that we deserve it, but certainly all these things do work together, and just shows that we do work in concert.
And fundamental point of departure is you're gonna be authorized to do this.
Right.
Because what we don't want to do is come up with a plan and then have it go back to the state and say, gee, Yarmouth thinks this is a fabulous plan, now give us a letter. That's what we want to avoid.
Yeah.
They'll get the letter. I'm
Madam
sorry.
Chair,
they'll
can I
get
make a small comment?
Yes.
Just looking at this from a 30,000-foot level, I'm starting to see that this appears to me to be a sense of desperation on the developer's part because they're trying to get something done because they're losing money. And they want somebody to say, pick this, you do it. And I just think they're trying to force something down the town's throat. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Tom.
Paul specifically said, and it's interesting that you use those words, that he did not want to jam something down. And, you know, he may find that maybe the housing isn't right, and maybe now that he knows more about the
It should go back to
VCOD,
commercial.
he'll look at, you know, maybe it's a hotel site.
Or
Maybe it's a boutique
Put
hotel
a
or something.
Starbucks up there.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a lot of opportunities in the VCOD. Whether the neighbors will be happier with one over the other, I don't know. Because I think anything more substantial than what's there now, which is a one-story building with literally half of the property completely wooded, is going to be a jolt, you know, it's just going to be a jolt. So, did you want to say anything about the parking, or, I'm glad that they increased the number of parking spaces. And and again, I thought that the argument of the one space per bedroom made some sense. So you don't have to, I'm just throwing it out there.
We're commenting on the three, on the three building and the one building, 3-story. Because that's all that we have in front of us.
Two building, they say 36, and again, he says two building, but he never shows that option with two buildings. You only see the two building here.
The paper that we have, though, has 3 buildings.
And then
Right, that's this one here.
So we've got 3 buildings and 1 building.
Right, we don't have a two.
I don't have a 2.
see, how can you comment on
No.
something that doesn't
Literally
exist?
say, we are reluctant to comment
Yeah.
on something that hasn't been formally submitted.
I
Or we
still-
but we still have concerns about the parking, and yet we
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
have not seen anything
But
definitive.
I think what Will brought up is important. I think we really should emphasize the fundamental issue right now is, are you authorized to do this? And we probably should wait till the state authorizes, and then we can have a more fruitful discussion. I don't want to
Another way
get
to
them
frame
in
it.
a position where they sort of come up with a plan that everyone thinks is workable, and then they run back to the state and say, Yarmouth thinks this is fabulous.
I agree, Susan. And I'm hoping we can construct a letter that doesn't put us in a position of being favorable or unfavorable on these plans that we're not sure what they are. We've
that they'd be approved,
commented favorably and unfavorably on what we saw before.
Which, to be honest with you, is the first version. I mean,
It's just moved.
this,
It's just
this you
moved.
could probably provide comments on because it's,
But didn't
assuming
we-
everything else is the same as they presented
Yeah,
previously.
But it isn't.
it's essentially the same.
No improvement. In fact, in many respects, it's worse.
Right, but I think the comments would be the general comments of providing the secondary means of egress out to circulate, you know, some of those generic comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also
And that the-
the 10-foot setback is just.
That 10 foot. So I just said, you know, the concerns about the 2 points of entry, the dead end for, you know, trash,
the-
fire, moving trucks, families, no space for the kids, and the 10 to 11-foot buffer is too close.
And it looks like the entrances, I'll call them building 2 and 3, face Pine Grove.
This
They
is
were
the rear of
facing
the
each
building.
other
That's the rear.
before.
Rear of the building.
Right, Madam Chair,
This
they
is
were.
the side of the building.
Right. So, but if I recall, I'll call them Building 2 and 3, before, were
Before
facing
they were
each
facing
other.
each other.
other, yeah.
yes. They changed the orientation
So
because
the
they
entry
lowered
would be
the elevation.
essentially, they're facing east. The front of the building?
The front of the building is facing west.
Yeah, see,
This
there's
is the
those little,
front of the
Oh,
yeah,
I'm
there's a
sorry.
little tiny, there's a little tiny walkway.
Sorry.
Right.
Little
Yep.
sidewalk right
This
there.
is an idea, you know, maybe they could do something to make it look like and we've done this before where people have like a faux something to make it look a little bit nicer. This side being facing Route 28 is not desirable, but that's a possibility of maybe reorient that. That's a possibility of reorienting this one.
So the back of the buildings is still facing Pine Grove.
Pine Grove.
Yeah. But I think you can make that look better.
Yeah, maybe something
Side.
along the lines of, you know,
It's just such a small lot.
I mean, no matter what you do there,
But again, Kathy, we don't know which of these two are being
Right.
submitted as an application to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
And neither do they.
yeah, so we could say due to lack of clarity.
Well, and that's where they can get away with saying progress plan. You know, when I first got the packet, I was like, okay, well, so now we're just gonna go next Thursday and have another conversation and to see what Chairman Igo is willing to go for, and I look forward to seeing that hearing, because I don't think they're gonna be best pleased to have another conversation of, as they say in England, jiggery pokery. I just, it just,
heard
it- well, you can look it up.
I
It's
trust
just-
you.
It's just, I don't think it's a good use of anybody's time.
It isn't.
And I'd be really surprised if the chairman of the ZBA feels like his time is being well used.
And at this point, I don't think ours is either.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'll be quiet.
No,
you,
no,
Madam
no,
Chair.
not to, I didn't mean,
I'm in agreement with you. I should be, let's wrap it
no,
up.
no.
I'm in agreement with that.
So Kathy, you have enough to, you think,
I think if you
the
guys are
consensus of
fine,
the
I'll
board?
put, it's not going to be very long.
It doesn't need to be.
No, it shouldn't be.
And
So
I'll
we-
should be
just run
short.
it by
To the point.
Joanne.
Yes,
And
please.
we'll come to some consensus, and then
yes, please.
But you're gonna send it to us first, right?
I ti-
Copy of it
I
before.
think it should just go to Joanne, Susan.
I'd like to
typically
read it
Joanne and I work on it together.
Okay, but I would like to read it before.
Okay,
it
but
goes.
Susan, just to say as a point of order, we've had many, many, many memos
Yeah, but
that
this one, yeah, but this one,
Please let me finish. We've had many memos that Madam Chair and Kathy have written on our behalf, and we've never had an issue.
Yeah, but
I'm not
this-
disagreeing, I'm just reminding you of
right,
the
but the last
process.
memo.
Okay, let's do this.
Can I make a comment? The
Yes,
last
you may.
memo, we all looked at. That's the only point. I just wanted to be
No, you
consistent.
didn't.
Yes, because I sent comments to Kathy. Yep, I said, I have the email right there. You sent it out, and you said, this is what we're gonna send, and I wrote back a couple of comments.
I don't recall that, but I don't recall a lot of
Well,
things.
Kathy,
That's
you
all
don't
right.
have to send it to
Okay,
me.
let's do this.
Fairness.
You don't have to send it to me.
Kathy, send it to everybody. You'll have 1 hour turnaround, because Kathy and I are going to
And just
look at it
send it to
quickly.
me. You do not deliberate.
By all.
And then the final decision needs to be Joanne.
Right.
Yes,
All
There we
good.
go.
we're all good with that.
Okay, great. Next on our agenda, I think we're done with this, Kath, right? Okay. Special town meeting, November 17th.
Yeah.
Kathy and I met with the Select Board. And I thought it was a very favorable meeting. Kathy did great, as always. And the Select Board seemed to be pretty much in line with where we are in terms of, number one, on the local comprehensive plan, they were very supportive of all the hard work that we put in.
Good.
And think of it as a really good comprehensive plan that should, pass through town meeting, hopefully, without any objection. They were very pleased with the effort. On the 2 zoning articles, again, there are mixed views on them, but they, I believe, are moved forward with the notion that our legislative arm is our town meeting, and town meeting should decide, although there were mixed opinions among the select board members. And I mentioned as part of our presentation that there were mixed opinions on this board
Yes.
as well. But the review with them went, I think, rather well. So I think we're in good.
Did vote on things at the end.
They did, yeah, we didn't
We were
stay.
unanimous on the LCP and on the lobster, and I think it was 3-2 to
3-2 on the other one,
The other
yeah.
one, yeah.
the vote.
On the boat.
Jim Saban did stop by today to say that he is planning on making an amendment from the floor to eliminate the seasonality bullet. You just wanted me to let you guys know so you won't be surprised.
How do amendments, I know money amendments, you can't have an amendment that increases,
I don't think them doing this would
but for language amendments, it merely is, for us, it's just language, and any amendment can be written and presented.
I don't think town council would have an issue with that particular amendment, but it might be worth mentioning to him ahead of time.
Yeah.
But I don't think that they would have an issue with
Okay,
that.
and-
The whole idea is you can't change the article so significantly that someone at home, when they're just looking at the warrant and decided not to come,
Right.
don't realize.
Or that it's more restrictive.
But I don't think I think that's a rule of thumb. I don't think it's an actual
Yeah.
thing
Yeah,
in there. So,
Okay.
so I just wanted to let you guys know that.
the town moderator will be advised as well, I trust, I hope.
Yeah, they wanted to have a meeting Monday they typically have a prep meeting. I'm not going to be there, but I can let them know about that as well.
And the other part of the discussion with the select board is our presentation at town meeting of the local comprehensive plan. And
I'll take all suggestions.
my comments, the basic, I think, underlying comment that I made to the board, select board, was it's important that the public understand that this is not an authorization or an appropriation. It's neither of those things.
Right.
Exactly.
It doesn't say, yes, we're going to absolutely do these things, and yes, we're going to pay for them. It does not say that. It's a plan that will change all the time. And I think that's kind of the important message, is they're not voting to do all these things.
Right.
And why we're doing it. It's a
Yeah.
requirement by the state,
yeah.
and it
And the benefits,
benefits the ability to get money and all that. yeah.
exactly.
People don't understand the benefits, because a lot of it are related to not having to go through the Cape Cod Commission and modifying the thresholds, and people be like, the Cape Cod Commission, thresholds, development of regional impact, what are
Yeah,
you talking about?
what does that mean?
What does that mean, growth incentive zone? And it's just like, I don't want to get into a long drawn out. I think the fact that it's required for all communities to have one. Off Cape, it's a master plan. On Cape, it's a local comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, my suggestion would be that Kathy not present every single goal from every single
no, no,
section.
no,
I
no,
hope,
no, no,
so I would basically do a version of what you've done here as well as at the select board, but take out the slides that show all 7, 8, 12, 7, 10, outcomes. And also politely reemphasize to those that will probably be hearing about the local comprehensive plan for the first time on November 17th, that this process started with the vision plan in 2021. And that this is just the culmination, not to mention the housing production plan, the open space and rec plan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is just a culmination and in some ways an amalgamation of a lot of other things.
I think it is, it's like, it is putting all in one place, everything that we're already working on and already doing and already concerned about.
And aren't there some aren't you also going to enumerate the fact that there's a yearly check-in, not to mention the work of the planning board and other places, much more frequently than yearly?
I think it might take a look at the executive summary. Kind of just, okay, let's just hit that. And then talk about what the LCP is and what it isn't. And you have made a good point at the select board about, lots of times having action items in the LCP can help boost your grant application. So there might be a lot of things in here, but the idea is making sure that we've got things covered so that we can, use other people's monies to the maximum extent possible.
I think those are the important points, Kath. and not getting into the weeds of it. Is
Maybe
there-
you and I can maybe have a little conversation too, as well. I think,
Would it be helpful to have the executive summary available at the meeting?
People walk in.
I forget how
on
many
the table, do you
pages.
mean?
Yeah, I forget how many pages it is.
How many? I'll be nerdy. I read the whole thing.
Congratulations.
that means you're a good
How
planning
many
board
cups of coffee
member.
did you need, Tom?
No, but I read it as where we were, where we are now, and what we would like to get to.
That's exactly
More
right.
of a snapshot of past, present, and future. And it's not fixed in stone. This is a living, breathing document as we move forward. That's how I read it. But I think the executive summary is.
Summarized it perfectly, Tom.
Sounds like you're presenting a town meeting, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
There we go. I
I'm
nominate
kidding.
him.
No, I don't, I would never, never speak for you.
We had talked about, is that something that everyone's comfortable having Joanne? 'Cause typically, what happens is someone needs to move it, read the explanation, and then probably hand it over to me for I don't want to be talking for
No.
10 minutes max.
We're at the very end, aren't we?
No, we're number 6, they
I
moved
was gonna
us.
say, you're,
They've moved us up, so it will be fully packed.
Fidgety at town meeting, and they don't, they lose, we're all too old, we lose track, and we start to fall asleep, so.
The zoning articles are still at the end, though.
They are,
they are.
yeah.
They're the last two.
Lobster, then boat,
Right.
How many things on the warrant, Kathy?
15.
15?
And I think one of the other things I got to update the website. I just wanted to let people maybe be able to look at just click on the different sections, get right to like what they might want to look at. Like, I just want to look at the implementation matrix. I just want to look at the executive summary, so they don't have to open the whole thing if they don't want to. And then I was thinking of maybe doing and I don't know if I'm going to have time, but some type of like basic frequently asked questions, and that's kind of, I was thinking maybe a 1 or 2 pager, like kind of explaining what it is. But if we're going to do the executive summary,
I think that's
you
all
have
you
to
need to
make
do.
400 executive summary printouts.
Yeah.
Oh,
So just, you need 400 copies.
400?
They make you do 400 copies because you don't know
Yeah.
who's going to be at town meeting or not.
Could we put it on the website?
it is on the website now, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I was thinking of one back-to-back pager that just kind of,
FAQs?
what's a local comprehensive plan? Why do we need one? A lot of the things, what's included in it? Just like how you would,
And then maybe a little QR code
yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
because that way people don't have to
And then
try
it
to.
would just be one
You don't
piece
want
of
somebody
paper.
pushing the piece of paper with their finger,
Yes.
Be
Then
able
it
to
would
get
just
that
be
link to work,
one piece of paper, Kath.
double-sided.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's just figuring out what to include in that and make it fit on that. But that's something that I'm working on.
And you and I can work on that, yeah?
That would be
Okay,
perfect.
Great.
I'd appreciate that.
And when we get to a point where we think we've got a product, we'll share it with all of you and get some comments back.
Thank you.
I want to make more copies of the final LCP too, so that you guys all have it and get them bound. I'm just trudging along.
Okay.
Can we, just the final thing is just confirm that Ken would do the motion for the boat parking?
Yes.
I already had said I would,
Get to
yes. What's that?
We
And
hoist you right up there. and say,
Lobster is.
I volunteer to do
yeah,
that, Madam
Yeah,
Chair.
yeah,
There.
I thought so. Right, okay, great. Anything more on local comprehensive plan? Okay, moving on. Committee assignments. Mr. Smith, may I start with you?
Sure.
Your preferences?
I was going through it. My preference actually would go on to design review, but if Peter's on it, I don't want to step on his toes. I don't know what Will's thoughts about staying on RAC.
I would say I'm certainly open to moving. I do think that with one exception, that, Ken and I have each done 2 capital budget committee cycles, and that is a lot.
Yep.
So I'd be open to moving anywhere if it pleases the rest of the group, but capital budget committee is not for me. I do think it's an important thing that everybody on the planning board, if they have the chance to go through a cycle,
That's hugely
should do,
important.
because it is literally the best way to learn about how the town functions
It's a-
inside and out.
Yeah, it's a great committee. There's a ton of work and process that go into it. Sandy, who runs it, who's the chair, does a tremendous job. But as Will put it, one of my constraints to it is the time of pulling out of work to go and do it.
Is it 5?
Well, no, the meetings are at 5, but going to visit all the departments, we do during the daytime. And so I'm like literally jumping out of work to go visit one of the department heads and then go back to work and then go to a meeting every Monday night now for the last 11 weeks. It's a lot.
Right, on the
really
flip
is.
side, once you get to
It's over.
December.
You're done
it
soon,
turns
right?
into a
It's done-
pumpkin.
We're done. Yeah,
Yeah.
next week is
Next
the
week is
last,
pretty much, I
is
saw
the
the
last
agenda.
meeting that we have to have until we meet with finance and we meet with the select board. And so we're done. There's a lot of tremendous good that comes out of this committee. But I just, as I had mentioned before, 2 cycles, I would like to do something else.
So you would stay on board through town meeting?
I will stay on board through, I'm committed through this year. I will stay on board through
Oh,
Springtown
through
meeting.
April, okay.
So this assignment would begin summer next year.
That's correct. I will stay on board through Springtown meeting and then would,
Yeah, that's the natural time
Right.
for the assignment to switch.
When does that typically start?
October, September, late September, early October.
And the nice part is, when you have that first meeting, it's pretty clearly laid out, like,
yeah.
these are the meetings we're gonna have for this little sprint, September, October, November.
A
And
sprint
then,
is a good idea.
it's really a sprint.
It is.
And then it takes a break until the end of the end of the calendar year.
Right.
And then it kinda lays dormant
Yep.
a little bit until Springtown meeting.
That's right.
But as it relates to what Ken was saying, I've done the rack for 2 years now, and it's been incredible. I'd be a little sad to leave, only because it's starting to get really interesting as we're about to start talking about phase 2 and where it's gonna go and how. But of course, if it makes sense for the overall, good of the committee, the planning board, I would be happy to go, somewhere else.
Okay, so on that.
I didn't really
I
answer
wanna
your
try to-
question.
Yeah, I just,
Sorry.
I,
Ken,
let's.
we started with Ken and we sort of went off.
Only
on a
because
side.
was at the top, it's really about the committee, the capital budget committee, that's why I started
course.
with him.
Yep.
So, having also served on the capital budget committee for 2 or 3 years, I'd like to think that this side of the table someone might be interested. It is a really good way to understand, and now it's much better than long ago when I was on it. So I'm wondering if anybody's interested.
Right,
Tom,
Joanne.
you'll give it a shot?
I'll give it a shot.
Thank you, Tom.
It would start next summer.
It's like a suspended sentence.
So I was just say effective May 1st,
Just saying.
2026.
I'm trying to make it positive.
It's really heavy from October on.
That's
So
right.
It might
Well,
start a little earlier.
Maybe
but then-
mid-September.
Yeah, it starts mid-September, Tom. We'll have a couple meetings, but
October is like.
from October 1 till now, it's been every single week. Yeah.
Okay.
So when I say it to Pam, I'm going to say effective May 1st, 2026, so that they're
After
clear
town
that you're
meeting.
still on.
Yeah, I will stay on through Springtown meeting.
Great, okay.
There we go.
CEDC, Peter has sent us a note. I think all of us received it. He would prefer not to be on CEDC, so we have that opening. Do I have any interest in that?
I'll say it this way. If somebody would really like to dive into the world of our sewer project, and then I'd certainly be open to switching to CEDC. I just would like to know, just as a point of order, what is the status of the CEDC? And did they not appoint a couple of people recently, or no?
They did. I thought they did
They
one.
appointed 1 or 2
Who
people.
did they appoint?
I'm sorry, I might be speaking.
I don't
out
think
of
they
turn.
did.
They haven't?
It's totally new to me if that's it.
Okay,
Now that
then.
Megan Eldridge,
Yeah.
is
Right,
the
it's
Director
her.
of Community Development, is, on, she's been here for a whole month. She keeps turning up, thank God. So I think that's something that they're going to kind of start to looking at reconstituting at the beginning of the year. So a couple, 2 to 3 months to kind of do the interviews and just decide on people. But they are reconstituting it and they want to continue with it.
Well, Madam
May have a
Chair-
different
Sorry.
leaning, that.
Maybe as a way to think about it is, how about this? When the CEDC reforms, which may be a few months, I'd certainly be interested if no one else is. I don't know about you, Ken?
I was on it for
Right,
years,
that's right,
so.
And that Peter just did
And
it.
I also have been on
Right,
it.
so I would be happy to give it a try, but in the meantime, I could stay on, whatever, I don't care.
And I saw your hand raised for RAC, Ken, so you'd be interested in
I'd be
going
interested
back
in
to
going
that?
back to RAC. And then also, if, I'll just throw it in now since you mentioned my name, I'd also do land disposition too.
Okay.
I think that that's actually, but it's good to have a person, but I'm not sure how active that
They
committee
only meet
is.
twice a year from what, they're,
I don't think they've met for years.
really?
Oh, I thought Jim had a.
I thought there was a meeting, no?
No, I don't, not to my knowledge,
Okay.
to my knowledge.
Wow, sounds like a great committee assignment.
Well, that's a perfect assignment.
It's
Hey, how do we
actually,
get
it's
that?
good to have someone listed there in case they reconstituted
Right.
or they do have a meeting, so I appreciate you.
So in terms of the RAC committee, anyone else, Deirdre or Susan, interested in that? I know I am not. So we'll go with Ken.
Yeah.
RAC, he's going back.
Okay, back to the rack. It has a nice little ring to it.
Excellent, okay.
And Madam Chair, if he wants that to be effective,
Well, once you have it effective
why
after
don't we
May.
swap in May? In other words, I'm happy to serve on the rack until May.
I'm fine with that if everyone's okay with that.
Or if that messes everything up, I can do it until January or something.
You may have double duty, though, when CEDC gets back up and running.
If, by that point, capital
Correct.
budget's quiet, so if CEDC starts up Gen 1, for
Yeah,
example,
so-
I'll step in and rack. But
Yeah.
otherwise,
Did you
keep
want to
me,
say effective January 1st?
Sure.
sure.
Does that work for you, Madam Chair?
No, of course.
Ken?
Next on the list is community housing. Deirdre, you're on that now. What do you think?
Well, I kind of feel like I've just gotten.
Yeah.
There's a
yeah,
lot to
that
learn.
It makes sense to stay on it
Yep,
from my
Great.
perspective.
Susan, any interest in that at all, or no?
No.
No, okay. Okay, Deirdre, you're staying.
Okay.
Thank you. I would like to stay on a CPA, a CPC rather, but am open to anyone else who might be interested in that. So I can continue with that.
So Peter would continue with design review?
We'll have, yeah,
What did Peter say?
He said he said he liked it.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah.
Just
And he'd
wanted
be
to
happy
make
to
sure.
continue, but I think he thought that he was temporary until Ken.
Well, I mean, I'll throw this out there, if we're talking long-term, a couple years down the road, since we're talking, I'd like to go on design review.
I think that actually is one that, I think that's an important one that we all should cycle through.
Right.
I have never been on it. I don't think any of us.
I think it was
Except-
Jim.
Jim Saban.
Jim Saban,
Before
Jim.
that, it was
It was Chris.
Chris.
that's right
Yeah,
there.
Chris was on it
Chris
for a
was on
very
it for
long time.
years, and he was, as a builder and an architect and blah, blah. It made a big difference, so this is good. We should all kind of think about cycling through. We'll go through this again next year. And those assignments that are easier to swap out, I'd like everybody to get a shot at design review, because there you really get to see what's in the works.
Yep.
It's one of the first stops, right?
Yeah.
From almost everything.
Yeah, okay, so Peter has indicated his interest there. Susan, do we still have a DISUC?
We do, and I think Jim and we talked about this. In fact, I think we talked about it at the board at one point. I think the sentiment was we'd keep this, the concept of it until it actually is open and handed off to someone in Public Works, just in case something happens
think that's a
and you
great idea.
need a decision. So I'll stay on that
Okay,
until that,
great.
and this will, I think, automatically dissolve once it's formally open and it's passed on to some department
Yeah.
in the
Okay,
the
great,
site's passed on to some department in town.
great.
When will that be, Madam Chair? Do you know?
I don't know.
Susan, do you know?
No, it's,
I think
they're hoping for sometime in the summer.
I think the bulk of it will be done this winter, but they got to wait to do the plantings around the restroom in the spring.
Sure, that makes
There's
sense.
been some talk of maybe, I think the first weekend in May, having a grand opening ribbon cutting
Yep.
for the property.
Yeah, certainly having it open by Memorial Day weekend. That was at
Yes.
the very latest would be Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
Or using Memorial Day weekend as a big kickoff event.
Yeah, that would be great.
Nice.
Okay.
There's a whole bunch of programming that needs to happen there.
who was going to be in charge of programming? See, that's the kind of
That's
thing
the
we were
question.
thinking.
I mean, I met with Jay Grandy, and then we also met with Megan, kind of handing that off of, someone else needs to figure out that next.
I mean, that was one of the things.
I've been working on it for 10 years, I'm tapping out.
Because
Someone else
recreation- you would
needs
think
to work on it for the
recreation-
next 10 years, and then they can
would
tap
think.
out.
Do you think recreation would have a big say as to what goes on there?
Not
Or is it
re-
also
no.
DPW?
Really. I mean, that was the.
Recreation's more
The
like
kayaking
athletic
thing?
recreation, this
Oh,
would be
you're
more
right.
like
It's
events.
more parks.
and,
This is parks,
Right.
not recreation.
Yeah, and Parks is just maintaining it, so it needs to be figured out is how are events going to be run at that particular.
Yeah, one of the concepts was, that's the reason we should keep this little committee together, because at one point, there was, the thought was maybe people would come to the committee with ideas, we would sort of either list them or vet them, or somehow and then pass them on to the appropriate entity in town, so sort of like be an entry point, if the committee was still constituted. So that was one thing that Jim and I talked about, is if the committee stays in existence, that's one of the things it could do, is sort of be a filter.
We need to come up with an actual use policy. There's an interim one there with no fees at all.
Right.
Because we didn't really have anything to offer. But now that we do, somebody needs to figure out what's the
And that's
use
what the-
policy, how does it get the solicitations go out? What's the, edits to any of the licensing agreement that needs to happen, and then get it out on the street so that people know that it's available.
Yeah.
And limiting the number. I mean, we don't want to have it excessive because there are neighbors nearby, so it
Right.
needs to be a reasonable number of events.
Right. So the
Especially
ki-
anything with
yeah.
amplified music needs to be restricted to a certain number of events.
So if the committee stays, at least that's a focal point for conversation, so we can.
Land disposition, obviously Jim was on it, hardly ever meets.
Ken's going to do it.
Ken's ready.
Okay,
Raring to go.
thank you, Ken.
You're welcome.
We covered RAC, and Susan, library?
Oh, yeah. Let's do that.
Right.
Everybody okay? Good, great, thank you so much. Matakee's utilization.
Oh, geez, that's right. Sharon Weimer and myself gave an update to the select board last night. Lots and lots and lots and lots of information. There's a nice memo in the packet from last night, if anyone's interested. It's on the agenda center. Just kind of talking about, giving them an update of the survey and the community meeting and the bubble diagrams that we've worked on since then. Also, the fact that the MUC took all of this information and kind of started to make some preliminary findings on things and recommendations that they wanted. Ultimately, they wanted to demolish all of the school wings of the building. There was a whole building reuse report that was done by Catalyst that, as you know, Will, when you did the intermediate school,
Did and I do.
it's junk.
Yep,
and-
we told you that in 2017. Here we are, we'll tell you again.
Yeah. But they ultimately ended up also voting to demolish the gym and the auditorium because it was going to take $25 million. But at least one or more of the concept plans need to include some mechanism for town recreation, whether it's a town recreation center or some type of public-private partnership that we get access to a sports complex gym. So we want to make sure that they're whole. One of the things that the MUC did talk about a lot was making sure there's going to be, no matter what we did, whether we were going to renovate or build new, or we're going to have a sports center, there's going to be a gap in services of the programming that they've done an excellent job of building up and using the Matakees gym. So maybe what can we do to kind of keep that program going? Maybe more conversations with the schools. Maybe there's some different things that could be done to help keep some of that programming going. Sorry, I didn't bring the memo with me, I apologize. But there's a couple other recommendations. The thing that I think that was probably the most controversial had to do with whether we would have housing included in all three concepts. There was some concern with having, of whether we would have we'd have enough space to have a sports complex facility that would be large enough to meet the demands of a developer to get all the different economic development benefits that we're hoping that we would get from it. So there was like a 5-2 vote for that. But we basically went through all the different bubble diagrams and then asked for some input from the select board, specifically regarding, should housing be in each each one. What size sports complex would you be interested in? And, you know, and any other comments that you might have with regard to the design, to the bubble diagrams, so that we wanted that input so that we could talk to BSC Group about coming up with a more detailed design, 3 design concepts, which would show the circulation, the roads, the parkings, more defined buildings, and give you a better idea of how the housing might be laid out and what the density might actually look like. I think there's a lot of discussion with the board with regard to not really knowing what size facility and the financial viability of a sports complex. So are you putting the cart before the horse? But in the same token, you kind of need to come up with some design concepts in order to be able to vet that design concept. And that's what I was trying to get at. It's kind of an iterative process where you might try this, oh no, and now we need to go back and make this change because we found out this new piece of information, and kind of keep going that way until you come up with the one preferred financially viable alternative. So we are going to get together as a staff group tomorrow and kind of talk about that and come up with a strategy, not just to come up with the design concepts, but also how we move forward with that vetting of the feasibility with the mass development grant that was received. And we have a marketing study that's going to be done, and also financials that are going to be done, developing some type of draft RFP for development of the site. And then BSC Group would be doing a bunch of detailed information with the site of getting a boundary survey and actually mapping the resource areas, doing a true traffic analysis, identifying what potential mitigation might be needed, moving the thing further along, and as well as looking at sewer and how we might be able to connect to sewer and what that might cost to kind of come up with some actual order of magnitude dollars for this. But I think it's going to be a case, yes, we might have a private developer who's going to be able to do X, Y, and Z, but in order to entice them to come, the town may need to do A, B, C. And we want to position ourselves to maximize any grant funding that we could get for A, B, C in order to entice people. But there might be other incentives like a DIF, a TIF, tax revenue, the different tax abatements or different types of things that might be able to do to attract somebody to come here, if that's what the town wants to do. So that's kind of the next phase 6 and 7. The phase 5 kind of gets us through the 3 concept designs and kind of a final report and presentation to the select board. So lots and lots of stuff going on.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Smith.
Kathy, my one quick comment, I think it's all great. I saw the part of it, and I didn't watch the whole thing last night, but, one thing you touched on, sewer has to be part of this, because no matter what you do,
Please.
without sewers up that road and working, nothing's going to work. So, and it's not part of the next phase, or at least it wasn't on the original plans, so it's part of what needs to be, whether it's discussed, whether Muck talks to RAC or whatever, that they really understand that sewers, having a sewer pipe going up to that area is hugely important for the redevelopment of that property, whether it's mixed-use housing, sports complex, whatever it is.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to +1 to that. I think literally at the staff level, I think there should be an opportunity for someone from the Muck to come to the next, very soon, to come to a RAC meeting, or to do something internally.
Sharon's been. Sharon Weimer's the chair of the MUC. She said she's come to the RAC meeting
I guess
before.
it's, maybe it's not time yet, then maybe in January, or no, I'm sorry, it said March or April was when the next sort of presentations were going to be made
The way it
by
was,
the Muck.
yeah.
I'm only saying that because the conversations have already started to start at the RAC about where Phase 2 is going to go. And I don't know how we sync these things up, but a failure to sync them up will be a failure, period, end of story.
I'm
So-
sorry, I thought that was already happening. I mean, Bob Rittenauer goes to the RAC, no?
He is in attendance at as many as he can be, but he's not at every single one because he's only one person.
Should we write a letter?
Well,
Madam Chair,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah, of course.
just touch on this, is that absolutely should be writing a letter, because right now, it's not only the areas where the sewer lines are going to go to, but it's also financially, how it's going to affect the overall budget. So all this planning has to be taking place now.
has to be
'cause-
coordinated.
That's right, exactly. That's really what it comes down to. And what I'd hate to see is this wonderful opportunity in the town, where we all discussed it, and having the fact that we don't have the pipe in the right spot, have this all get delayed.
And to just throw one more curveball in, Madam Chair, because it relates to a little bit what Ken was talking about, is as someone who's on the school building committee for the ME Small School, I would just like to say in public very clearly, please do not assume that there will be a school built at ME Small. I'm going to say it very
On Higgins.
calmly and clearly. Please do not assume that either the taxpayers will agree to vote to pay for a school to be built at the ME Small location, or that there should be a school built at the ME Small location. So, that all connects to the town meeting vote, which is coming up on the 17th. But there's, I saw the muck bubble diagrams, and some of them had school, some of them didn't have school, and I understand, again, another coordination thing where the school district is going to have to be redistricted. It is coming. And so for that opportunity to then go by the wayside when it's being connected to sewer and it's being connected to the Mattakey site, all three of these things have to be coordinated. And I know you're giving me a puzzled look. I can talk to you more
I'm not
after the
following
meeting.
the last part
What
about
I'm
the
saying
school.
is I would say that there is a reasonable chance that we will be a one elementary school
Okay.
town. In fact, I would like to say publicly we should be. But that's another conversation for another committee in another place. But all these things this is the planning board. Our job is to fly higher off the ground. And what we're saying and what we're asking and what we're practically begging for our town departments and our school administration to do is to work together. Because all of these things are trying to land on the same runway at the same time. And not to mention the important work that's being done to identify and hopefully build a new library. Not to mention the work to be done to hopefully potentially build a new fire station. So it's just, all we can do is be these canaries in the coal mine as volunteers. But these things all are coming together. And it would be unfair to say that nobody told us so.
Right.
Because we've been telling you so for years. So because of the work of the school building committee, again, as it relates to muck, Madam Chair, and I will get back to the point, which is, I don't think everybody should assume that those 8 or 10 acres are going to be a school in 2030. I'd be really surprised if there is a school there. Not to mention the fact that it is operating and functioning in a very challenging physical plant as it is. So to look ahead 5 years from now and say we'd still be in the school as is, I'd be shocked. Much less the fact that the school building administration, if we get the money, we can't build a school even in 5 years. So all these things are coming to a head. And I really hope, and this is why, Madam Chair, you have us farmed out as so efficiently to all these different places. And the sewer opportunity really is the thing that, I hate to say it,
It's going to be the driver to this whole thing. It really is.
underpins everything.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It should be the first step on everything. Where the water program fits into whatever they want to
And
do.
also, of course, we have to not forget that the most important point of doing the whole sewer program was to, save our estuaries, is the environmental reason for doing sewer. It's not just the developmental reason. And so that's where phase 2 is going to shift, because we still have to deliver on what we've promised in terms of the permits to the state to keep our water quality, or to provide water quality where there may not be enough. And hopefully that Mattakese area will play a role in that as early as phase 2, because if it's not in phase 2, it's going to get missed
For a
for
long
the
time.
muck. That's going to be 10 years at the earliest.
Thank you,
Sorry,
Mr.
Madam Chair.
Rubenstein.
I'm off the soapbox.
Thank you.
That was a
Anything else on
muck-related
muck,
question,
Kath?
sorry.
Nope, from your perspective, okay. We don't have any meeting minutes, right?
No, sorry.
I'm not saying that.
No, it just means I'm
Say-
further behind.
Had other things to do.
No, that's not what I meant. I just
No,
want to make
for
sure.
me, it
I
breaks
read
my
it,
heart.
right? Committee updates. I think we've sort of had some, but let's
got it.
go through it again.
I do have a RAC committee update. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there on Monday. There was a site walk at the new, or at the under construction facility. And also, there's been a new YouTube video, which I did see, which shows the time lapse of the last, I think, 30 days. I couldn't really tell, but it was a bunch of days. However, in the meeting itself, which I did get the minutes of, unfortunately, the recording did not work. But there's still the work at Bayberry and the coordination with the state in order to use it as a recharge site. And our consultants have been working very closely with DEP. And the good news is that continues to show promise, but we won't really know until January or February if we're going to get the recharge we need in order to, start sending water, send water up there when it's time. Other couple things is, I'm sure many of you have noticed there's some paving going on on Route 28. You may have noticed. Just a couple of reminders. Please say happy thoughts and prayers that the temperatures stay warm enough for the asphalt to be given, for the permission from MassDOT to continue paving. So what you want is it to stay nice and warm. And since there's no global warming, that shouldn't be a problem. That was a joke. Okay. Also, Contract 5, as we know, has started a couple weeks ago, and working from west of Parkers River towards Winslow Gray, as I'm sure we all know. And they also, again, we beg for forgiveness. We're not asking for permission. We're still begging for forgiveness. It isn't an easy process to keep moving down a really busy street, even in a less busy time of year, and not have inconvenience and disruption. But they are moving almost a couple hundred feet. Well, they've already done a couple hundred feet. They're going. The update on Contract 6 is I didn't finish the select board meeting video last night. I didn't see it on the agenda, but apparently the minutes of this meeting say that there is an easement that's going to get signed. And I don't know if it was on the agenda last night or if it was discussed, because I didn't finish watching the recording of last night's select board meeting.
Pump House 2 was on the agenda.
It's on a different
That's Pump
parcel.
House, but that was Pump House 2.
That's it. That's the one
Oh,
that's
yeah.
in question.
So I believe they very quickly in a voice vote basically said yes, but I don't believe a location was actually provided. And again, I'm sorry, I wasn't at the meeting, and there's no video of the meeting.
Okay.
So the good news is, I think we're going to start seeing a Conservation Commission review and all those processes. It does mean, unfortunately, the contract has to get rebid, but again, it's going to be the same contractor, we hope, which is Diggett, who's doing Contract 5, so they'll just get to continue moving west. So unfortunately, that project won't start till the spring of '26. We, unfortunately, because of the time it took to get the pump station located, we're not going to be able to start that contract this fall. But, nothing's going into that plant until 2028 anyway. So I think everything is still on time.
It's fine with the 0% loans and
Oh,
everything?
yeah. Yes, that's been, and we've been talking about that every single month, and it's been reconfirmed by the state.
Yeah, we're still there.
Yes, which is good. Also, big picture, I would just say, for those of you that are worried about phase 2 of the sewer system, remember that half of the 207 million is the plant.
Right.
So there's no way the town is going to ask a town meeting for 200 million ever again. So whatever phase 2 is going to be, it's going to be probably 50% of that at the most. So I just wanted to kind of put that as context for when you start hearing about phase 2. There was some quick discussion about traffic. If anybody's been at the corner or at the traffic light at Forest and Winslow Gray, it's been really bad. What apparently happened is that the traffic signal detectors in the pavement got damaged while they were redoing that and repaving that whole intersection. So it was causing the lights to not function or cycle appropriately and react to the traffic. The traffic couldn't set off the signal to then change. So they're under repair right now. So please be patient at that intersection, which of course is a very busy detour intersection now, because that's where everybody's being detoured to.
Yes, exactly.
So the good news is they found the problem. Go ahead, Ken.
It was backed up like a half a mile the other day because the light was red for like 20 minutes. Nobody would go,
Yes. So I would assume, and again, I wasn't at the meeting and there is no video, I would assume the Yarmouth PD will also be involved and perhaps hoping to direct some traffic there if that's what it takes. And also, Madam Chair, because it does relate to not far from where you live, there was a detour sign that was left up over the weekend at North Main Street near 28. Did you know that?
I did not.
I didn't either. But Apparently, it's a MassDOT sign, and our friends at MassDOT forgot to take the sign away, especially on a weekend when there is no detour.
Right.
So it wasn't like the Yarmouth could just yank the sign, or the contractor couldn't yank the sign. It is a state sign. So I apologize. That's enough. I think that's enough from the rec.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, just a
Yes.
quick update on capital budget.
Yes.
All the projects have been vetted and have been rated, so that whole thing's behind us now. Next meeting, which I think is December 4th, is with Finance, and then December 16th is our Select Board presentation, and we'll go from there. So it was quite the process, but we finally got through it all, and
Do you have a meeting on Monday, the 10th?
we do.
Oh,
We have,
okay. Is that kind of the final one?
It is the
In terms
final.
of running through the,
That's right, it's to run
Okay.
through the stuff to make sure we're ready for our Finance Committee meeting and then get ready for Select Board. I will say this, just to throw it out there, the department heads this year, I've only been on it 2 years, so I've last year only to compare it to, but they did unbelievable work getting their submittals correct, pictures, descriptions, why they needed it. It was, I can't answer for what it was like when you were on it,
We can tell you.
but it was, they
It was
really,
binder after binder after binder.
The
Sorry,
depart-
Tom, good news, it's all on, most of it's online now.
it's all online
It's
now,
all
Tom.
streamlined.
Yeah.
I'll believe it when I see it.
No, it is.
No, it
I'm
literally
telling you,
is.
Tom, it is. The department heads, I just want to put it on record,
Yeah.
should be commended for the work that they did preparing.
oh, great.
No more
Can I
binders.
ask some questions?
Certainly.
Ken, did the library make it, this is the 2026 capital program, right?
That is correct.
Is the library on that list?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Committee, anything?
No, I was just going to mention, it was under board member, that, as you know, the library committee is coming to the planning committee. I requested to come, and I think we're going to set it
saw-
up
I think I
for
saw those notes, yeah.
December 3rd, right, Kathy?
Yes.
And it will be, we're hoping it will be a public meeting, because one of the goals of this is to get people informed about what we're doing. But for sure, they wanted to talk to the planning committee.
Okay.
Great.
And let the-
So you two will be sitting on either side of the,
We'll be sitting up
They'll
here.
sw- they'll
Yeah,
swi- they'll
we'll be
flip
sitting-
yeah, there you go.
Like Queen Elizabeth,
Big
you know,
turns.
changing it, soccer, half.
Deirdre?
But-
At housing, most of the focus has been on the 40B that we've discussed, and also the Habitat for Humanity development, which was signed off on, I guess, at the Select Board last night. And generally concern that housing isn't getting, that worry that housing might not get enough attention at MUC. And I think that there are, people that don't want any housing and that sort of thing. But I think that the sentiment generally is that a lot of the money is in housing, and also that's incentive for the sewer as well, which is so necessary. So I think that it's important to emphasize the critical nature of having some housing on that site. And that's been part of the discussion too. But basically, I think that's the main thing that we've been talking about.
All right.
Madam Chair, can I ask
Yes.
Kathy one question about the Wood Road project that you just brought up, Deirdre? The house or the lot just before, which was an old dentist office, is that part of this redevelopment? It's not.
It's around it,
It's bad.
It's all around it?
all around it.
Bad, bad,
They have
bad.
I think there was some discussions of the Habitat purchasing it, because there is a draft future driveway that goes from the cul-de-sac, from the Habitat to that parcel.
Really awful.
Yeah, I don't know what's the,
I mean, we have the Great Seaside Festival, and everybody's there walking and parking and, going to the Seaside Festival, and you just walk by this pretty disastrous lot
looking thing, yeah.
right in front of the Seaside
Just-
Festival.
I certainly support Habitat getting possession of that lot.
Right, yep.
Well, maybe you can get on the blighted list as well for, now that we might have.
super awkward shaped lot
Yeah.
and super tiny. It's like a triangle. It's very strange.
Madam Chair, can I ask Deirdre a question?
Yes, you may.
Has there been any more discussion, I know it's not at your particular committee, but it's still involved, about the parcel on Forest Road?
It comes up all the time, and I have not heard any more resolution. I guess the last thing I heard, Drew said that they were going to be discussing it again to think of some other alternatives, but, I don't know what the details are.
Okay. I'm assuming when you hear something, you'll let
I
us
will
know.
share it with you.
He is also on the CPC committee, and he did not mention anything today. We had our meeting today.
Got it.
So again, there was some radio silence on that. And with regard to that, today we approved to recommend for board meeting, for the town meeting, all of the housing articles. We annually fund the Affordable Housing Trust in a couple of different ways. The Habitat for Humanity, we approved today. HETCH, which is a collaboration among the ecumenical community in Harwich, Dennis, here in Yarmouth, that provides emergency funding to prevent evictions. So people might need a rent, or they becoming close to being homeless, so we can provide them, Hatch can provide them with first, last month rent, that kind of thing. So we approved the funding. They've been an annual applicant to the CPC. We approved them today. And we'll be, at our next meeting, we'll be looking at the balance of the projects. We had one project we're leaving until January. It has to do with the Yarmouth Port Library, where their request was for the replacement of a ADA ramp. And the building itself is historic, obviously, but we're working through the ramp.
In the rear, Madam Chair?
Yes,
It's
yes.
a concrete ramp, yeah.
And whether or not CPA funding can be applied to that. We're looking to get all the best opinions on this. We're also looking at their financials and whether or not there's some way for them to afford to do it. So that's the one that we're hanging on to until January. All of the other projects will be voted on at our next meeting in 2 weeks.
Madam Chair, was Packet Landing on to,
It was on last week, and that one we will be voting on again. The presentation was last week. We'll be voting on that in 2 weeks. But I did not attend that meeting, but I know it was viewed very favorably.
It's for the park?
is to raise the elevation?
yeah, raise
To
the
raise the
elevation.
elevation of the
Yeah.
parking
Yeah.
lot.
The other thing I wanted to bring up was that I did sign up for the Housing to Protect Cape Cod seminar session over at the Emerald Hotel, and unfortunately, I was unable to attend it. But I did get the slide deck. There's like 90 slides that went through it. And as I went through it quickly, the primary focus was on what we talked about at our last meeting, seasonal housing. And there's a form letter that they would like, people like us, planning boards, to write to the Executive Office of Housing and Affordable Communities in support of seasonal designation and tiny houses, and the general discussion we had at our last meeting. And Julian Sear was there, obviously, as a promoter of that. But the Cape Cod Commission and HAC are really pushing for a regional approach to this, a regional surtax on luxury homes, home sales, a regional approach to managing any kind of seasonal housing inventory. So none of this is, it's just proposals, but it looked to me from the slide deck, again, that the commission and HAC are looking to have a regional approach on a lot of these things, which my first impression is one that it's bad enough when the state takes away our rights to zone and have an ADU the way we like it, but to have a regional approach, we're all very different towns. And so, but there are proposals out there, so it's out there being talked about. But I think again, the notion is that each town would have to opt in. I didn't see anything where they're looking to promote legislation, although there was new legislation, 40Y, that I hadn't heard of before.
Starter home.
Starter homes. I can, send the slide deck to you guys.
Yes,
if
that's
you
what I was
want.
gonna ask, Madam
Why
Chair.
don't I
Could
do
you
that?
forward
Why don't I
it
do that?
to
Kathy,
Kathy or whoever
I'll send
needs
it
to
to you,
forward
and
it?
then you can send it out.
That'd be nice.
I think it, and I think it was taped as well.
That's good.
Unfortunately, I just couldn't, I wanted to attend, I've attended in the past, but I just, I couldn't, so.
Madam Chair, do you know where the short-term rental study, where that stands and when we may see it?
We've been having some trouble. I think the Affordable Housing Trust, they kind of funded it, so UMass Donahue is going to present it to them and get their feedback before they kind of go out.
Okay.
And they've had some difficulty, I think, coordinating the meeting. I believe it's on December 2nd now,
Okay.
in the morning. I can confirm that, but I'm not positive. But it keeps getting delayed and delayed, but I think it's December 2nd. Did you know? Okay.
I haven't heard of that.
Might just have been the Affordable Housing Trust that was in, it's going to be at one of their meetings.
The wheels of justice turn slowly sometimes, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, one last question.
Yes,
Do you
Mr.
know
Smith.
how Nantucket made out yesterday? They had on their ballot was a referendum on short-term rentals. Has anybody heard how that,
And which town was this?
Nantucket?
Nantucket.
No, I have not.
It's a huge battle out there.
Yeah, I know it is. I just was curious how that turned out. I haven't heard anything or saw anything. No?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other board member items? Kathy, any correspondence or staff updates that you haven't already covered? Was I supposed to remind you of something?
No, we did it. It was this, yeah, we're all set. I'm just thinking what else going, we're working on, we sent out the draft of the hazard mitigation plan
Oh,
to
that's
the
right, yeah.
team to get some of their comments on that, and hopefully,
Let's do Monday, right? You'd like our comments Monday?
I think it's the 13th.
Yeah, okay.
The 13th. And then we would have some type of public comment period and public hearing, hopefully sometime in December, so then we can get before the select board on January 1st. They're required to approve us sending it to MEMA for their review, and then MEMA reviews it, comments on it, and then you have to send it to FEMA to get their review. The grant ends on May 2nd, so we just need to keep that moving forward.
Will that become kind of an add-on to the local comprehensive plan?
One of the action items is to complete the
Yeah.
update to the hazard mitigation plan.
And so
Yeah.
once we do, okay, great. Upcoming meetings. Special town meeting is the 17th. Our next meeting is the 19th. Kathy, do we have anything that we think might be on the agenda for that? Sorry, go ahead.
I don't think that there's anything, there was potentially some conversation about an A&R. And that's something you need to see within 21 days or we get an extension, but I don't think there's anything that
But
would
we might
require-
not have a meeting.
I would love to not have a meeting. Would you guys love to not have a
I
meeting?
would love to
Make a
know.
motion for that, or do we just decide? How does that work?
I don't want to keep it.
And then our next
Go to the
meeting
Monday special town meeting.
would be on December 3rd. Oh, I forgot to mention, each of you I took the liberty of sending to you. And Deirdre and Tom, this might be interesting for you as new members. This group, the CPTC, is a really good group.
Is that, I saw your email.
I've taken their courses, and they're.
They
they're-
online?
Yes, they are. Yep, they're online. So I encourage you to just take a look and see if any of their courses,
Not a great expensive fee, but there is some.
there is a fee. I think it's like $35
$35.
or something, yeah.
The first two looked really interesting. I'm going to try
Yeah.
and do those.
Yeah,
All online, Joanne?
it's all online, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Great.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.